morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this session on evidence-based social science in China. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. All of our panel is here and ready to join you. And I see that the audience is sending likes, so that's great. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the Pan American Health Organization, the Evidence-Based Medicine Center at Lanzhou University in China, Canada's Drug and Health Technology Agency, CADF, as well as our panel sponsors and partner, UNFPA, Partnerships for Evidence and Equity in Responsive Social Systems, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Epicenter.
Vivian, I do think we need to start because we've got quite a lot of presenters. We can just change the order a bit.
Yes, great.
So, because
will-
Yaolong was going to chair the first half and be the second, but I can yield to him once he joins.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you start your camera, we'll be
Yeah.
online. Welcome everyone. Dr. Howard White is chairing this session. Over to you, Howard.
Okay, thank you. So we're also expecting Yaolong Chen to join shortly, and it will also be chairing the session with me. Was going to chair the first half and me the second half because I'm presenting in the first half. But we'll swap and as once he's able to join. So let's carry on. So it's a great honour to be here, of course, to work with colleagues from Lanzhou to be presenting at What Works Global Summit 2022. And the What Works Global Summit itself goes back to the first one in 2016 in London, which Zhenggang came to. And so there's a long, good tradition of engagement from Chinese colleagues at What Works Global Summits across the years. And if you look at the program for this year, you'll see particularly strong presentations from Chinese researchers across the program in many sessions. So that's really good to see. And so I'm moving from chair to presenter. I'm the first presenter on the program, talking about evidence-based social sciences in China. And so what you see there is the plus side, that we see a lot of presentations from many researchers, which is indicative of the growing amount of research being done, intervention research and systematic review specifically being done in China, and of good quality that we think are suitable to bring along, get presented at this event. So that's really good to see. So there's an expression, I don't know, you have a similar expression in Chinese, of talking about a glass being half full or glass half empty. So the expression is someone says they're a glass half full person or glass half empty person. So you have a glass and it's half full. You can either look at that positively and say, "Hey, look, the glass is half full. That's really good," or you can be a negative person and say, "It's only half full." And so I think from the perspective of Chinese social sciences, research and interventions, I would be a positive glass half full person. This glass is half full. That's a really good thing because it was empty just not long ago and now it's half full. And so that's a very positive development. There's been a lot of progress in a small space of time in increasing social science research, intervention research in particular, on primary studies and reviews of interventions in social science, in social sectors. But at the same time, the glass is half empty. And what I would like to talk about are some aspects of trying to fill to fill the rest of the glass. And many of you, probably all of you actually, will have read the editorial I wrote in the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology when we had a special collection of papers on social science research in intervention research in China. And so what I'm going to say echoes pretty much what I said in that paper also in JCE. Um, I think a key thing when I look at everyone is now here, so Yaolong, I will consider you the chair, but I've started my my talk, so I'll hand back to you when I'm completed. Um, if you look at the research being done, my perception, I may be wrong, but my perception is it's very largely supply driven. And there are some exceptions. One that Zhenggang mentioned, his paper in that special collection, and may speak about today, was an initiative by the Ministry of Justice a few years ago in Beijing to commission papers to collect evidence around justice interventions that are effective. But that's really, a nice, somewhat isolated example of demand side for evidence. The other exception of which I'm aware of, so there may be others I'm not aware of, the other exception I'm aware of is the work of Rural Education Action Project, REAP, which is a collaboration between Stanford and a number of universities um, across China, and they came to speak at the last conference we had in person for Campbell China Network and evidence-based social sciences in Nanjing. Must have been 2019, I guess. Yeah, November 2019. And they came to speak there. And REAP worked particularly down at local level, even down at county level, but at provincial level, with local government or provincial government to identify interventions of interest and work on trying to influence policy at that level. But a lot of what I see, particularly in terms of the reviews, are very much supply driven, meaning it's research deciding what to do and doing that research. And there's and and for doing reviews, that's possible. When you do primary research, when you do a randomized controlled trial of a social program, you have to engage with the implementers of that program. You can't not do so to do this primary study. And so doing reviews allows you to retreat into your ivory tower. Ivory tower is a bit of a um, negative expression for academia in English, meaning you're sort of up in an ivory tower, you're not really experiencing the realities of life. And doing reviews allowed to stay in your ivory tower. Now, but that's not how reviews should be done. So at Campbell, we try to encourage reviewers to engage with stakeholders, including not just other researchers, but practitioners in the area. And so to get a bit of more of a sense of what the practitioners want to know about. There's a saying in knowledge translation that basically if you go to a policymaker and say, here's a report you never asked for, it's not going to do anything. Okay, you've got to produce reports they've asked for, not reports they've never asked for. And so trying to work on the demand side is important. What we do in Campbell generally, Campbell Central and Campbell South Asia, where I mainly do my work, is what we call user commissioners. And Vivian and I have an editorial on that in the most recent Campbell Systematic Reviews, where we talk about our work of user commissioners. So work on demand side. The second thing is broadening the base. You can't help but notice most of the presentations are from Lanzhou and from Nanjing, and not much, and there's not much from elsewhere. So Campbell China Network has over 20 members, and we would like to see more of them presenting at these events and more of them working with Campbell. And I don't understand the impact factor has been a constraint there. Vivian can mention that. It's going to be resolved very shortly, hopefully, early next year. We'd like to see a broader base of people working with Campbell, but what I'd really like to see is a broader base of research and evaluation in China. And I don't think the M&E community, monitoring evaluation community, has really taken off. And across other countries in East Asia, I particularly say Thailand or Malaysia, you've got really strong evaluation communities in a way that's lacking currently in China. And I, I really think there's a huge latent demand for doing good evaluation of government spending. The ironic thing is that governments in Asia typically, and China is no exception, governments at all levels are interested in evidence. They are interested in what experts think, and what experts think should be based on evidence. So I think there's a huge demand for better monitoring and evaluation and what's now called accountability and learning, so MEAL, monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning, across China. And I think there's a gap there. And I don't really myself distinguish between research and evaluation. There's a real need to grow this evidence and evaluation community across China. And so it's done, there should be evaluation courses, impact evaluation courses, systematic review courses in social sciences across China as a norm. And I think members of China Network, particularly again, Nanjing and Lanzhou, are a good base for starting to build that up. There's people we train go elsewhere, they can start to establish it elsewhere. So broaden the base of the work that's been done. And the final point I want to make is around quality. Everything I'm saying is going to be echoed in later presentations, is around quality. So when we do look at the quality of the reviews and RCTs being done in China, we see two things. One is an upward trend in numbers. We see poor quality, but improvements in quality, but improvements in the quality of primary studies and reviews is very important. There's a correlation. There are a lot of Chinese studies in Chinese, which is good. It's not surprising. And when we do reviews working with Lanzhou, we uncover the Chinese studies and include them, which is great. But often the confidence study findings is low, and so we really need. There's a correlation between being published in English and being higher confidence study findings. We need to work on that so that we get a better understanding. Just as an anecdote, I met this guy last month who does work with Chinese colleagues, and he works in actually in student mental health now. We're just starting work on, as most of you know, and he said the method sections in the Chinese RCTs do not give adequate description of the methods to be able to assess the methods. So what he did was simply do a correlation between effect sizes and the length of the method section, how many words are in the method section, and found a strong negative relationship. So the fewer words there were, the bigger was the effect size. So the less description there was of methods, then the larger the effect size, which is a good indicator of the fact people aren't describing their methods are probably pretty ropey, and we know that ropey means not particularly good, and not particularly good study designs lead to larger effect sizes. That's well known. So challenges: work on the demand side, broaden the base, improving quality of studies. They're big challenges. The glass is half full. It's a good thing. Yay! It used to be empty, now it's half full. But let's work on towards filling the other half. Thank you. Back to you, Yaolong.
Thank you very much, Howard. I'm sorry, I'm just delayed a couple of minutes. So hello everyone. Welcome to What Works Global Summit 2022. I'm Yao from Evidence-Based Social Science Research Center of Lanzhou University. And joining me today to chair this session is Dr. Howard White from Campbell Collaboration. I think this topic of this session is evidence-based social science in China. And in this session, I noticed that there are 6 speakers who will give us fantastic presentations related to the ideas, framework, development, and cases of evidence-based social science in China. But first, I hope to introduce Dr. Howard White. Dr. Howard White is the former CEO of Campbell Collaboration. He was founding executive director of the International Initiative for Impact Evaluation and has led the impact evaluation programs of the World Bank's independent evaluation group. Actually, I just read one of his recent articles in the past 3 days, and I was very impressed. I strongly recommend all our audience here to read it carefully, and I'm sure you will get a lot out of it. The title is "Getting Evidence into Use: The Experience of Campbell Collaboration." Okay, so next, Dr. Howard White will give his first presentation. The topic is prospects for evidence-based social science research in China. Please.
So that's what I just did. I've done that while you were joining.
Okay.
I finished that. So let's move on to the second speaker, please.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so our next speaker is Dr. Jinglin He. She is one of the commissioners of the Global Evidence Commission, adjunct professor of the Institute of Health Data Science of Lanzhou University. And she is also senior researcher of Peking University's Medical Center, and as well as consultant of the Tsinghua University Research Center on Aging Societies. And previously, Dr. has served as a consultant of UNICEF, UNAIDS, and WHO, respectively. She brings experience and expertise in public health, social science development, and empowerment. And today, her presentation topic is the Global Evidence Commission Report, Value and Implication for China. Doctor, please.
It's okay, my slides? Can you see that one?
I don't see them yet.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
We always need a couple of minutes to familiar this online system, right?
Really
Yeah. Don't worry. Yeah.
Yes, wait a second.
Yes, I see you're sharing, but we see the wrong screen. Okay, now it's the correct screen. Oh, it went away.
Let's do it again. Print. Share. Oh no, sorry. Do it again.
It is on. It's sharing the view of the gallery right now. Okay.
First share and then slides.
Or maybe you can send your slide to me. I can help share if I could, if it works in my computer.
No.
We did. Okay, so but it's still sharing the wrong screen that was sharing the gallery view.
I click here and then back and then share. No, why it's not success?
Yeah, it is still sharing the view of the people, not the view of your PowerPoint. You need to share the screen with the PowerPoint?
I need to stop screaming? Camera? No, I can.
You are sharing the screen with a picture of all of us, but you need to share the screen that has your PowerPoint slides. Or can you send your slides to me or to Professor Yaolong?
I can send to Yaolong. Yaolong, can you do that? Or I can share with.
Okay, I will try my best. You can send it to me.
Okay.
By WeChat.
By WeChat, yes.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
Okay. I think I got your slide, and then I will share screen, and so can you see your slide on my screen?
Yes, but not.
It
okay.
works, or?
Yeah, it works.
Okay, please just remind me the next one.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Yaolong. Thank you, introduction, and thank you, everybody. Be patient for the slides. Okay, my name is He Jinglin. I'm the commissioner of the Global Evidence Commission, and I'm so happy to be invited to share my feeling and thought about the value and the implications for China of the Global Evidence Commission report. Next slide, please. As you know, the Commission report, the title of the Commission report is a wake-up call and a path forward for decision makers, evidence intermediary, and also impact-oriented evidence producers. So it's quite long, but very meaningful, very useful report. The report has, 140 pages with 8 chapters. The Chinese version was, the English version was launched in January this year. Next slide. And after 6 months, the Chinese version of the report was launched on June 10th online because COVID-19 pandemic, we cannot have the on-site events in Beijing, either in Beijing or in Lanzhou, so we can't. So we have very, very good launching event. And thanks for Lanzhou University's, Evidence-Based Social Science Research Center and the Institute of Health Data Science. They organize, the launching event. And also we have, 4 speakers for that event. So Professor Xuejun Wang, the Vice President of Lanzhou University, Professor Liying of Peking University, and Dr. Chiki Li of WHO China. The last but not least, Professor John Levis, he's a co-lead of the report. So we have a lovely launching event, and also, the Chinese colleague also feel the report is very important for China. Next slide, please. And the report have the 8 chapter and a lot of very important components or contents. I pick up 3, key important component. That's also very, I learn a lot from the report. The first important part is in the report is mentioned about 4 types of decision makers. Not only the government policy makers, but also organizational leaders. For example, business and non-governmental organization leaders, and also professionals. They are doctors, engineers, social workers, or teachers. And also, as well as the decision maker are citizens. So the citizens, also the one kind of the policy or decision makers. So they need opportunities, motivated, and the capacity to make personal decisions. So it's very important we think about the 4 kinds of decision makers. Next one. The second part is thank you. The second part is also important that we need to build and establish an evidence support system. The system needs to use the right strategy to support the use of the best evidence for the right issue and the contents. There are 5 types of strategy. One is improving the climate for evidence use. Second one, prioritizing and reducing, production evidence. And also we need to also prioritizing evidence for the policy decision makers. And as well as we need facilitating the poll by decision makers. The last one, and also we need exchanging frequently with decision makers. So this is a 5 strategy, very, very important to us. Next slide, please. Please click. Yeah, okay, click. And thank you. And also, most important part of this report of the chapter 7, there are 24 evidence commission recommendations with 8 most important bolded, here in red. So they are very useful, 24 recommendations. For example, for founders, one recommendation calling for spending smarter and ideally more on evidence support, particularly on national and subnational evidence support system and broader evidence infrastructures. So those kind of 24 recommendations, we can use it, imply for our practical work or applied research work, and also into our routine work. Okay, next slide, please. What do we learn from the report? There are 5 major points here. I also learned from the John Levers. He mentioned about very important 5 points in his presentation. What we learned from the report, first one, it is a time to systematize the aspect of the using evidence, which are creating the capacities, opportunities, and the motivation to addressing societal challenges, and also putting in place the structures and the process to sustain them. Second one, we should stop accepting the personal opinions of high-profile experts, and instead seeking out experts who can back up their statement with a description of how they identified, assesses, and interpreted the evidence they are drawing on. Third one, we should stop accepting the recommendations of all school and the one of experts panel, and instead push for more living panels that develop truly evidence-based recommendations. First one, we should stop engaging in the groupthink that can come from simply asking what other country or district or regional to what they are doing, and instead evaluate what they are doing, so we know whether the benefit outweigh the harms and justify the cost. Last one, we should build the processes into government, so using evidence is a consistent feature in decision making. What should we do? We need to use the report as a tool. I always discuss with my colleagues and friends. We use the report as a tool, especially the facts, cases, and the experience of the COVID-19 and the methodologies or approaches for applying into practices of specific or different topics, such as environmental protection, carbon neutral, education, or new communicable diseases prevention. So this is very important topic for us, and we meet big challenges of these issues or challenges. As a commissioner, I am looking forward to working together with such as Profession Chen Yaolong's team and other colleagues from research institutes, government organizations, UN agencies, and as well as NGOs. So we need to strengthen our partnership with those kind of agency organizations to imply the recommendations in China context. Okay, next one. Thank you, everybody. I would like to cooperation with you and also working together to strengthen the evidence and also files and also using the methodology in China. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. He. I stop share screen. As we know, because I've been over almost 15 minutes, so I know some audience have questions, but I have to say we need to move on. So thank you very much for your great presentation. So next speaker, Dr. Zhenggang Bai. He is one of the founders of Campbell China Network. He is also the Dean and Professor of Evidence-Based Research Center of Social Science and Health at Nanjing University of Science Technology. Today, his presentation topic is development and the challenge of Campbell China Network. Dr. Bai, it's over to you.
Okay, let me share my slide.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see my slide. Yes, Yaolong?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Yaolong. Thank you, Era. It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to say something about the development of Campbell China Network. And also, what's the mission of the Campbell China Network? As we know that now in globally, we have the Campbell Collaboration and the Campbell Collaboration. And also in China, we need a place, or we need a plan to further development the evidence-based social science, because social science is very important for the policy making in the developing world and the countries. So the mission and of the Campbell CCN is first dissemination and application of evidence-based method in the social science research and policy making. Second is to bridge the enhance the communication between the researchers, practitioners, and policymakers. And also now the CCN compose several of fields. First is the social work, education, and also the sociology and the psychology and the social policy is like this. So it's a multi-simple background exchange platform. So in after about 5 years discussion with the Campbell Collaboration internationally, then in 2019, I remember it's November 24th, in Nanjing University of Science and Technology, we had the meeting of the Campbell China Network. And that conference, we invited Yaolong and other experts. Some is also from the founder of the evidence-based medicine in China, Yu Pingli, and also some expert from the Stanford universities and also the Harvard come to my university to have this meeting, a very important event. After the CCN established, we invited different international and domestic experts join as the CCN consultant. Some from this expert is from the Harvard University, and this is from the PK universities, and also Xuejun Wang is also from the Lanzhou Universities, and this is from the Nanjing University. It's a research expert about seeking tech, and in the conference, I remember he gave a speech about how the evidence-based social science supports the think tech, and also now the CCN this is the CCN's framework. We have the expert committee panel I just showed, and then we have the research method group and the secretary office. And now we have the different groups, such as like the coordinator group in Campbell, the social work, education, psychology, ethnography, environment, and others. And also now this is a member of the whole CCN from different universities or different province, and we can see from this map, we can see there are about totally 28 members. Most of them from the university and some of them from the hospital, because we all believe that the evidence-based practice is an equal international language to communicate between different disciplines and inside and outside. And also, this is some main research work we have done, because in the past 3 years, we hold different trainings, especially this year we had the Campbell Advanced Systematic Review workshop, and Vivian and Harvard were invited to give the training. And so our members, they some of them they publish work by themselves, and some of them they publish the paper or work together. Although I admit that most of the members they did a little work about the Campbell systematic review, because the systematic review have very strict criteria if we want to publish that, but their team understands the Campbell systematic review, and same time they publish other evidence theses, especially with the support from Harvard Professor Xuejun Wang and other members. We published 3 papers about social evidence-based social science in China in the GCE journals, which I think has the very important impact for the evidence-based social science in China. And also, after the establishment of the CCN, now the COVID-19 is coming. Yes, so at that time, we think what we should do as the researchers and the evidence-based social science researchers. So at that time, we initiated event on how to use the scientific evidence to battle the COVID-19. And we collect the questions or cancer problems from the society. And then we search some evidence and then send it back to them to help them to understand what we should do in this special event. So there are 6 policymakers about how to deal with the stigma during that times, and also how the international collaboration, how to collaborate to deal with the COVID. And from now, we still think that this kind of policy making has important implication for this event in China. And also, this is some of the policy evidence-based policy brief. It's like this. And also in China, if we want to use the evidence-based social science, the first problem is where we to find the evidence. In medical field, we know that there are several main database, and their search strategy is formative. But in social science, it's not easy. So our CCN established and developed the evidence-based social science database in China. Now this work is ongoing, and we hope that we make this database more useful and easily for the researchers and evidence users. And also, we know that if we want more researchers or future policymakers to understand the evidence-based policymaking or practice, we should let more students, when they get the education from the university, they can understand it. But most of them have no time or have no support to join the Campbell systematic review workshop. So we invited our CCN members, expert, to have the online curriculum class. So this is the main class we have done. And if our members and other researchers are interested in this, they can get it freely. It's open. And also during the COVID-19, we invited different experts of EBP from different universities, give the public lectures, let them know what is evidence-based education, what is evidence-based social work, and the policy making, and how to use this method and conception in their study and research. And also, this is some work I just said that we have we initiated the evidence-based battle COVID-19, and then we translated several policymakers and Campbell reviews from the Campbell Collaboration's website and disseminate in China through the CCN's WeChat platform. Let more people know that. And also, although it's the in this special event, in the 2020, we had the second annual conference in online, and the topic is during the COVID-19, how to deal with that through the multidisciplinary collaboration and the evidence transformation. This is the annual conference of the CCNs. And then we already further do some work about in the last year, 2021, we had the third annual conference. It's at that time, Harvard was also invited, and the first time we invited evidence-based practice researchers from the West Belt, West Road countries to join these sessions. And also, this is our 3 papers published in the GCE's journals. And also, here are some main work we have done.
I'm sorry, Dr.
Okay.
Bai, because of the very limited time. So
okay.
Yeah.
So last slide is further to build a platform for Chinese researchers to do the evidence-based social research. We had these journals. It's like this. Okay, so if you have interesting, you can contact us. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bai. As we know, 10 years ago, China has its first grid center, and 5 years ago, China established, Cochrane China Network. I believe that Campbell China Network will play a key role to promote Campbell collaboration and Campbell systematic reviews in China. So, given the meeting is currently overrunning by about 50 minutes, so please, I would like to remind each speaker to try to end your talk in less than 6 to 8 minutes, okay? So, Dr. Howard, are you online? I think the floor is yours. Howard, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, the floor is yours, okay? You can
Okay,
introduce
thank you.
Professor Wang, okay.
Yes. Professor Wang, also from Lanzhou, is going to be speaking about evidence-based governance. And as Professor Chen was saying, please do try and keep your remarks not too long. So the floor is yours. Xuejun, are you here? You can hear me?
Professor Wang, you can share your slide. And
he joined late, didn't get a chance to practice.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello, we see you. Good. Can you share the slides?
Okay, it's my turn.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can you see the slides?
No.
How about it? Can you see the
Yes.
slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Xuejun Wang, and I'm professor of the Department of Administration and Evidence-Based Social Science Research Center in Lanzhou University.
The
So
sound,
my
sorry, the
topic-
sound is not good. It's a bit broken. I don't know if you can
Yeah,
adjust.
maybe
the
you
settings a
can
bit.
turn off your camera. You can
Yeah.
turn off your camera and yeah. Try.
Okay. I'll try. How about it?
Yeah, that's better. Yes, it's better. Thank you.
Okay. So my topic is about evidence-based evidence. In 2018, we established the Evidence-Based Social Science Research Center of Lanzhou University, and I'm a professor of target concentration, so I will talk something about the evidence-based decision-making and governance. There are five parts. First one is why evidence decision-making is required in public administration. Because the term evidence-based was born in the field of clinical medicine, and the term evidence-based can be traced back to the improving the use of evidence in the white paper, modernizing government in UK in 1999. And we think the core mission of the government is to create public value, and any decision of the government must seek the optimal solution for the public interest and the fundamental starting point and anchor point. So evidence-based policy making implies the pursuit of public value by government. Thus, scientific evidence formed by incorporating procedural justice, social knowledge, and public value preferences not only enables government to abandon the traditional ways of making decisions, but also minimize decision uncertainty and promotes scientific decision making. In the Web of Science database, into the keyword evidence-based policy and search by research direction public administration, we find that it has increased 6 times in the last 20 years, and the research involves humans, health policy, evidence-based practice, and other subjects terms, among which the literature on evidence-based policy making in China is also increasing day by day. And there are mainly 3 categories. First one is expanding evidence-based decision theory from different fields and levels. Second one is emphasizing the interaction between evidence-based decision-making and other factors. And third one is exploring methodological approaches to evidence-based decision-making. And in terms of the key practices, in 1999, the Black government issued 2 official documents, which became the official guide to evidence-based policymaking in government departments. And since 2013, the youth government has established the What Works Networks. And in United States, evidence-based decision-making practice has advanced a lot, and they released, several kind of acts to promote the evidence-based decision making in United States, and the think tanks and research institutes have been established, including Evidence for Policy and Practice Information and Coordinating Center in the UK, Center for Evidence-Based Practices, and the Campbell Collaboration in the US. In China, also evidence-based decision making is still in its infancy in governance practice, but the use of various kinds of evidence to improve government decision making and management and decision making based on evidence has become a major trend for our government to promote the modernization of governance system and governance capacity. For example, there are some kind of very good conditions to develop the evidence-based policymaking, including information disclosure, digital construction, and co-process people's democracy and think tank construction. First one is we have done a lot to achieve the data and information disclosure, promoting the sharing of data resources of government departments and the opening of public data resources to build an evidence base for government decisions. And second one, enhance data and information completeness. We have takes a lot of measures to enhance the richness of data and information. Third one is we have done a lot to ensuring the quality and accuracy of evidence. For example, the Central Deep Reform Group formulated opinions on deepening the reform of statistical management system and improving the authenticity of statistical data to require one vote veto on data falsification. And lastly, we have built a lot of think tanks to provide, evidences to promote the modernization of our governance system. And we, find that the evidence-based decision making, although it has made a lot of progresses, there are kind of some challenges. First one is ignoring the reasonable value demands of multiple subjects. Second one is elements such as political institutions, values, and culture can significantly interfere with the applicability of evidence. And third one is increasing complexity of the decision-making environment and the impact of the wicked issues. Thus, we find that the logic of evidence-based decision-making should be transformed to the evidence-based governance, including from linear production to co-production of evidence, from evidence evaluation to integrated evidence governance, from clear use of evidence to systematic agenda setting, and from effectiveness to valuableness. We built a kind of a dynamic triangular model of evidence-based governance, including evidence, public value, and leadership. And from the year 2018, we have established a center to advance the research of evidence-based decision making in Lanzhou University. But find that there are some kind of challenges for evidence-based governance research in China. First one is knowledge translation dilemma. Second one is practical application dilemma, and third one is practical application dilemma. And we proposed several ways to promote evidence-based governance research in China. First one is we have to drive in knowledge translation, including institutional design, motivational mechanisms, building research institutions and practice sectors. Second one is refine the methodology of the research, including the integration of evidence, values, and resources, construct exclusion criteria, and quality assessment. And third one is the use of meta-analysis and carrier inference methods. And third one is build a mid-level series of evidence-based governance, including the integrating evidence, values, and resources, social networks, evidence-based governance, and types of evidence use and leadership. Lastly, we emphasize that we have to embrace the context of big data and computational social science, including tackling the privileging of big data evidence, coordinating the data ecosystem, regulating the procedures for the use of evidence, and mitigating value conflicts. This is a kind of a very short report of my opinions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was about to ask if you could wrap up, so that's good timing. Okay, let's move on quickly. We don't have time, I'm afraid. Do put any comments or questions. There's a live Q&A, so do put any questions in live Q&A, and then the presenters can respond there. So Dr. Yu now is going to talk about strengthening the evidence ecosystem. So something sort of responding to what was talked about, I think, in the previous presentation, but also definitely the earlier presentation on the Evidence Commission. So please, strengthening the evidence ecosystem. Over to you. Yep, you can see the slides. Thank you. Good.
Okay, thank you so much. And hello, everyone. My name is Xuan, and my presentation topic is the ecosystem of evidence-informed decision-making in China needs strengthening. So maybe some of the audience always confused about like what is the evidence-informed decision-making and what is the difference between evidence-based decision-making. So actually evidence-based and evidence-informed are interchangeable, and evidence-informed better describes the role of the evidence in decision-making and the decisions that are well supported by evidence. So evidence-informed decision-making is the development and the sublimation of evidence-based decision-making, which is the manifestation of evidence-based concepts in practice. So the evidence-informed decision-making process, opinions that are not supported by empirical evidence are not always wrong. So evidence-informed decision-making focuses on the obtaining, evaluation, and use of evidence, which is a process and a method. Therefore, a well-functioning ecosystem of evidence-informed decision-making can provide a bridging opportunity for different stakeholders, such as policymakers, decision-makers, researchers, and the public, and it is a standardized pathway for making decisions. And this slide you can find at here is a health decision-making framework, which developed by Hogan and his colleagues. And as we know, although the decision process and the framework tend to be similar across the countries and settings, the context that dedicates how they are implemented may differ. So for example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, essentially all evidence has been available globally. Nonetheless, the responses differed substantially. So most countries have adopted or later switched to the coexisting with the coronavirus policy, while some of the countries to follow the dynamic COVID-0 strategy. So this reflects the unique challenges and opportunities the decision-making ecosystem in China faces. Therefore, our working group actually uses SWOT framework to analyze the ecosystem of decision-making in China. So in this table, you could find there are 4 sectors: strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Actually, first of all, I hope to declare that this analysis is only represent of our working group's opinion. But because of the time, I'm not speak detailedly about like what is the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats at here. So actually we can find like it is crucial for China to continuously strengthen the scientific rigor, transparency, and applicability of evidence in the local context, and to learn evidence from international partners, to consider local factors such as health and governance systems, demography, economics, culture, and social practices. We also need to optimize the pathways for different decision makers to choose recommendations or policy options, and to expand the use of evidence-informed decision-making, inform health to all sectors, especially for our social society in China. So in our view, there exist major gaps between evidence production and decision-making in China because of the lower research quality compared with the global average, and the lack of standards and policies for managing and declaring conflict of interest at different stages. Actually, I think before we've already introduced that we have some of the research related to the quality assessment for social sciences, which was published in the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology. And I believe my next speaker will introduce his quality assessment research in China, especially for the RCTs. So as I said before, not only for increased research quality, but we also need to enhance standards. So now our team is developing 2 standard reporting guidelines. One is for the conflict of interest for guidelines, we call it right for COINF, and another one is for evidence brief for policy, we call it step checklist. So declaring and managing conflict of interest at different stages could make the evidence more scientific and transparent. Also, and clear, accurate, and complete evidence brief for policy can not only help decision makers and other stakeholders correctly understand the contents of a brief, but also help users make more evidence-informed decision making. Overall, we believe that the active dissemination and implementation of multidisciplinary decision-making frameworks and strengthening the ecosystem of evidence-informed decision-making in China can play a significant role in building a modern national governance system. But efforts must be made to effectively address these challenges. So thank you so much, and this is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing that so quickly. I'm not sure we get cut off automatically when the time comes in 2 minutes.
No, you won't. You won't.
You won't.
Be
Okay, here. Okay, great. Then we've got plenty of time. Take it easy. Okay, thank you. So Liying Zhou is next going to be talking about the quality of RCTs. So please go ahead.
Okay.
There you are. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Zhou Liying, a master student from Lanzhou University. It is a very great pleasure indeed for me to be able to attend this meeting. The topic of my presentation is the quality of social science. Randomized controlled trials need to be improved. This study collected published RCTs in the social science in China from 2000 to 2022 to assess the risk of bias and the reporting quality. We updated the study evidence-based social science in China paper, the quality of social science and RCTs published from 2000 to 2020. We supplemented the search from June 2020 to September 2022 according to the search strategy of this study. Reporting quality was assessed using the consultor SPIS. The risk of bias was assessed using the Cochrane Collaboration tool. Data collection and analysis was performed in Microsoft Excel. Roman software was used to calculate the risk ratio and 95% confidence intervals for the product quality assessment. After screening, 371 RCTs met the inclusion criteria, including 259 articles in English, while the other 112 were in Chinese. As shown in Figure 1, the number of articles being published showed an increasing trend over time, especially for the number of articles being published in English. For 2015 onwards, the number of English articles increased substantially, while the number of Chinese articles decreased over time. However, since 2019, the number of published articles has gradually decreased. This may be due to the COVID-19 outbreak and China's strict epidemic prevention and control policies. As shown in Table 1, only 1.6% articles were published in journal with impact factors greater than 9, and 3.5% articles were published in journal with impact factors 6.1 to 9. As shown in Figure 2, compared with English articles, the Chinese articles had a lower compliance rate in 24 sub-items. However, Chinese articles had a higher compliance rate in 4 sub-items. As shown in Figure 3, compared with the English articles, Chinese articles had a lower proportion of items of their methods for random sequence generation, allocation concealment, blinding of participants and personnel, blinding of outcome assessment, and other bias. Meanwhile, a higher proportion of Chinese RCTs were at high risk of bias due to selective reporting. Overall, in recent years, there has been an increasing number of RCTs in the social science being published in China, with a growing share of papers being written in English. However, there were several differences both in the reporting quality and the risk of bias between Chinese and English articles, especially for items relating to child design and outcomes. The quality of social science RCTs in China need to be improved. That's all for my talk. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much. That does give us a bit of time for some questions. If you can stop sharing, okay, thank you. So there's already one question in the Q&A, and please have people can put them there. As there's actually a couple of questions there directed towards Zhenggang. So Zhenggang, you can have a look there. I'm going to ask one, a major one I also wrote down, is for non-Chinese members in the audience, there aren't very many, they won't be familiar with the Chinese systems of government-endorsed think tanks, and that's particularly important. And so the question relates to the relationship between Campbell China Network and think tanks. So Zhenggang, can you say a bit about that?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, the question is the relationship between the CCN and the think tank, yes?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so Yes. In my understanding that we know that the evidence-based medicine, this conception was raised in 1992, and after 13 years development, and I think until the guideline, evidence-based guideline appear, that I think the evidence-based medicine was practiced in the hospital, in the clinic. So as to the evidence-based social science. Social science now we mainly focused on the research and how we can transfer the research into the practice and the policy making. As in myself, I think that the think tank is a tool, or it's a path. They use the evidence-based research and formed the policy makers and the brief, and then send it to the policy makers. So I think the think tank is very important for the evidence-based social science, because they are the how to say the bridges. So and also in the past 2 years, we published 2 papers in Chinese. We talked about how the internationally, such as the brand, the think tank, and the others famous American cities, these famous think tank internationally, they formulate the collaboration of the evidence-based policy making. And we wrote 2 papers about that in China. And we want more think tankers, they understand that the evidence-based practice and research is very important for the think tank development in China. So that's my response. Okay, Howard.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have time for one more question, and because the session will close in 3 minutes. So this one's for you, Liying, on the last presentation on RCTs. So what do you think can be done to improve the quality of social science RCTs in China?
Okay. To improve the quality of Chinese social science, I think in the future, journal editors in China should request more thorough reporting, and researchers need to improve the reporting quality of their RCTs. Special reporting guidelines and the risk of bias assessment tool can be developed and utilized for social science.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very good point. So, I mean, as systematic reviewers, we're familiar with critical appraisal tools, but primary researchers actually in social sciences aren't aware of them, and there aren't reporting standards. They're not commonly used. And I do think an important part of building the evidence architecture of doing good quality studies is promoting the use of basically reporting standards, conduct reporting standards for primary studies across social sciences, and that should be part of our mission in China. So I just want to say that at the Centre for Evidence-Based Social Sciences at Lanzhou, we are planning to start a series of working papers, which are preliminary versions of papers put out for discussion before submission to a journal. And so there's several public presentations here. People at Lanzhou, I think we'll come back to see about putting those into that new working paper series. And actually, we could also do some preliminary form of conduct reporting standards for RCTs, again, coming out of a centre working paper series, and then that's used as a basis for consultation, and then we can put it into a journal. Okay, so thank you, everyone. That's been a really great session. Thank you for staying on and hearing the rest of the session. So I think the glass isn't overflowing yet. You remember my analogy at the start of the glass half full. It's maybe getting more than half full now, not yet overflowing, but we're heading towards full. And let's hope this time next year or the year after, when we have a session like this, we find the glass is overflowing. So thank you again. And please do, the next session in What Was Global Summit is the plenary session starting in just over 5 minutes on countering violent extremism. This is a Campbell Collaboration managed grant program funded by basically mainly US Department of Homeland Security, Public Safety Canada in Canada, Home Office in UK, and their equivalents in Australia and New Zealand. And it is on what the name suggests is countering violent extremism. So Campbell manages the grant program. We make grants to other researchers around the world to carry out the studies, and some of the study, and then their publishers, Campbell Reviews, going through the Campbell editorial process. We'll be hearing some of the studies presented now. I mention it partly because of those of you who are running centres and thinking about building Campbell China Network. Is part of the business model for Campbell Central is to run these grant programs. So it's one way in which we get money to fund for centre activities. And so this is looking for money for one or two, a single study here and there's one thing you can do. We're looking for money for groups of studies. So to get Campbell China get an award for Campbell China Network to do 30 reviews in social science areas of interest to government departments, and then CCN Secretariat manage that grant program would be a good way to fund for Secretariat as well, because of course the Secretariat does need funding of CCN. Okay, thanks everyone. So lots of ideas, lots of food for thought. Hope to see you in the next session. And in the other session we've got, I've said, lots of presenters from CCN throughout the rest of the conference. So thanks again and have a good afternoon, evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.